Got interrupted by lack of memory on my memory card. Okay, I was saying, moving on, since this hole here for the piston has been plunged almost a 1/16 of an inch deeper, you've got... I need to make this really clear. So I measured from the edge, because why wouldn't I? I measured from this edge here, so I got the depth gauge as close to this edge as I could. Okay, so since from this edge moving to the forward towards the end of the gun, towards the barrel end of the gun, moving up is almost a 1/16 of an inch deeper, that means that this concave surface goes even deeper. So this machined edge, from this area right here, they've plunged this hole to within, a paper, I want to say an inch of its life, but a paper's width of its life. If you were to try and square up, if you could somehow square this up, you would punch right through the sides of the thing. And, obviously you could do like a dollop of weld on either side, but I don't want a receiver that thin in that area. That piston's slamming back and forth pretty darn hard. Okay, so this area from this point forward is almost a 1/16 of an inch deeper. But then since they produced this surface here, it's significantly worse. This one, on the other hand, if you wanted more flat surface and no concave surface here, well, you could go deeper, because there's forgiving metal in there. There isn't any in these receivers. The situation gets worse. Worse. How could it get worse? It gets worse. And this is an over-exaggeration. I took lots of measurements off of receiver stuff. That's how I got my information, because those are straight from the Czech Republic, and I figured they may have known what they were doing. Most people will tell you, if they know what they're talking about, they'll tell you that there was a lot of variance. The VZ58 is an incredibly forgiving firearm. Incredibly forgiving. But I can't forgive this fucking bullshit. I just can't. And I've tried to get product support from Assault Weapons of Ohio. No help. They're friendly on the phone, very friendly people. No help. And I don't blame them. It'd be hard to issue a recall on all these receivers, and some of them might actually be all right. I have not ever met one that was all right. They told me that they sold 1,400 of these, and I did the math. I haven't a while back, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was like I think it came to about $350,000 worth of receivers, and maybe they're all shit. All right. So the last problem with this, the piston area on the bad receivers, is that if you look at a cross view of it, okay, so the piston right here sits, there's a piston stop, right? So it sits here and it moves from here to here, here to here. All right. Well, these aftermarket receivers, I don't know how much of a slope there's supposed to be in here, but their slope is so dramatic that when the piston is drawn to the rear after the gas pushes it to that position, it puts a lot of pressure on the spring, and this opening is way too large, and what happens is that the spring is forced in it, and this is what happens. You end up with spring parts. It's hard to see. I don't know if we can focus on it. Oh, maybe. Look at the damage, okay? These springs are being bent into that void and dissolved. These are perfectly good springs. Let's see here. Look at look how it's being flattened out and then just dissolved. Look at. Hopefully that's in focus. All right, now look at the damage to that. I have seen a number. So I took some credit. I said, okay, well maybe the head spacing was a little bit off. Well, you know what? I've met a lot of these rifles, hundreds of them, through the internet, and maybe, you know, 25 in person, and a lot of them have headspace issues. Now that's going to affect accuracy and it's going to affect how it works, but none of them have ever cracked like this one. Is there a chance that these springs being dissolved and broken up when that piston is traveling back and forth could cause this whole rifle to buck? And since it's so hard, overly hard in my opinion, break in the process, you know? I don't know, but I'll let you be the judge. That's clearly a flaw, and yeah, drives me batty. So the solution that I've come up with for this problem is as follows. There's a number of solutions, but here's as follows. See that? I have welded a good receiver. From a good receiver, I removed the piston stop and added it to this bad receiver to fix that problem. Okay? And here is that. Here is the bad one, and it's really hard to convey it on camera, but that is an obnoxious oval, and it's just a weird shape. Here is a good one. Much smaller hole, and it's got that nice lip, and I can show you if the light's right. Let's see here. Focus. All right. It's flat surface. Oh, then there's this concave surface here. Stops, flat surface, concave. Hopefully that conveys properly. This one, on the other hand, focus. There's hard machining marks, so these would be hard on a spring no matter what. But there's no surface except this, no flat surface, no flat mating surface except this concave thing. Now look at how much material is here. What is that? That looks like a little over an 1/8 of an inch. Here, it's just a 1/16 of an inch. Another reason why the piston forces the spring down there and breaks it. Let me see if I'm forgetting anything. I know I am. I find these sorts of bits to be the easiest to work with on these hard receivers. Die grinder or Dremel. If you have a die grinder, the Dremel has variable speed. I would keep it on a lower setting. Die grinder, I would hook a rheostat to it so you can control the speed. Kind of how I did the repair is you cut the rear end off, and my battery's about to die. You cut the rear end off, bevel the internals. Here's the piece that was removed. Notice it's got the width of a blade removed, right? So then what you do is you cut the next piece out of the receiver stub larger, so that way you can remove some slowly and fit it in there. And then what you'll want to do is use one of those cutting tools to bevel everything. You don't want these ultra hard burrs in there that can damage anything, and the internal shape of this is so important, so maintain that. If you cut it out just right, you'll end up with a sliver of metal here, which then I'll take one of these deburring tools and I'll remove that sliver. You don't want that in there. You want nothing in there that's going to interfere with the piston and the spring's movement, nothing to dissolve that area. And then I weld it up. Not looking for 100% penetration, because you don't want to have to then go back and clean up the inside. You want it perfectly clean on the inside, and you just mount a weld up in there. Also, final thought, I use the bolt carrier as my guide. So this goes in here, and if this part, because you don't want them touching, if this part can fall in without, like, you know, without ever touching the bolt carrier, but just like a hair in between them, you're in the perfect area. Also, this could be welded up at a slight angle by accident, okay? But what I do is I'll use a piston without a spring, and I'll slide it through there, and the piston will find its natural resting spot. And that could be something, you know, it could be any number of things. It could be at different angles, but you basically use the piston as a guide, tack it in place, and then pull the piston out. You want it to obviously slide real nicely. That did not. Slide real nicely, and then you weld it up. All right? I hope that will be of some help to the people that are thinking about building one of these off of an Assault Weapons of Ohio or Ohio rapid fire receiver, and the many issues that you can have. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Thanks for your time, guys.